Philippians chapter 4, beginning with verse 10. For I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased and how to abound, both to be full and to be hungry, to be in want and to suffer in need. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me.
There's what the line that struck me when we were doing it was the one about I have learned to be
In whatsoever state I am therewith to be content.
yeah, and if I'm hungry or
well fed.
that's right. And then there was the one about there to be debased or
I know both how to be abased and how to abound.
and I will be content. I have learned to be content. Yes,
In whatsoever state I am.
yeah. So not that I am content. That's not what we're. I mean, it's the learning is the teaching. How you do it is important. Here, tell me, talk to some about that.
The scripture implies a process, what Paul is conveying in that scripture, and of course he's under house arrest as he shares these words in Rome. He's in shackles. This man who had been literally a world traveler, who was a kind of evangelistic swashbuckler, was now limited to one room and bound in chains. And here he is expressing the fact that even in that state, he has learned to be content. It was a process. He implies that there was a time when he did not know how to be content in every situation. The application of that text, I think, to that situation is that regardless of whether I am feeling full and, quote, satisfied, because most of us, when we eat, are seeking to be satisfied.
Yeah.
So whether I'm full and feel satisfied, or whether I am hungry and may have some hunger pains dotting through my stomach, I have learned to be content. And either one of them can be a challenge, both being full or being hungry.
And you can juxtapose the journey with the satisfaction, I think. And if in this culture we focus a lot on the satisfaction through a short trip, to take the shortcuts.
Yes.
But there's things to be learned about our relationship with food, which I think in many ways may be more important than feeling satisfied. Does that make sense? Or I mean that's what I think I'm hearing by emphasizing that word. Learning, that the learning is almost more of the gift from God than the satisfaction.
And the satisfaction that we think we get from food. And I like that phrase that you use, our relationship with food. That each of us has to come to terms with where we stand with respect to food. And there are other things in life that are similar. Money, for example, we have to come to terms with where we stand in relation to money. Is food a means of nourishing us, of strengthening us, so that food is not the final objective? It is merely a tool or a means to achieve a final objective. Or is food what this is all about? And I contend that to have a proper relationship with food means that you recognize that food is a tool, that it is something that we need, it is something that God has provided for us to be able to live a good life. But food in itself is not the end. It is not the achievement. It is not what we are searching for. It only helps us.
Because if food was the end, then it makes sense that more food is desirable.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. If food is the end, if that's the objective, then the more food, the better. The better tasting the food, the better.
Or lowering your standards for what is better tasting.
Or lowering your standards.
for what is better tasting. One of the advantages of having legitimate satisfaction is its applicability to future situations. And that goes back to the learning. If you learn how to handle yourself in one situation that is difficult when something else is difficult, it becomes easier to handle that, even if the two situations are completely different.
Absolutely. That's the whole idea behind discipline and self-control. And discipline, there are probably a lot of definitions that we could give for discipline. But I think the best definition is a definition that the Lord gave me about 12 years ago. I was teaching an elementary school class after school, in an after-school program, and I was trying to teach them about discipline. And the definition he gave me was that discipline is doing the right thing at the right time. Discipline is doing the right thing at the right time. And I used that definition for many years. And then recently, I heard a radio broadcast where a famous television evangelist was giving his definition of discipline. And he said, discipline is doing the right thing at the right time. And so I felt validated in the definition that the Lord had given me many years ago. And I think that's what it boils down to. When you know how to do the right thing at the right time with regard to food, then that same capacity, that same competency, if you will, carries over into other areas of your life.
Yeah.
And discipline, when discipline is exercised in one area, it spills over. There's an overflow.
And how do I look back on my day with the spirit of education as opposed to abasement?
Yes. I think learning, education, is really a process of getting to know oneself. And when I talk about knowing what works for me, in order for me to know what works for me, I have to know me. And as I said in a sermon 2 Sundays ago, often the problem is that we do not know ourselves, that me and myself do not know I, that my id and my ego don't know my superego, and that me, myself, and I need to be introduced to one another and really get to know one another. And of course, Polonius said to his son Laertes as he was preparing to leave home in the Shakespearean play Hamlet, to thine own self be true, and then it will follow as the night followeth the day. Thou canst not be false to any man. And so as we come to know ourselves and are true to ourselves, it's then that the education process really takes hold.